I need a professional woman. I can't date no more hoes, you know what I'm saying? Hoes, all they care about is the dough, you know what I'm saying?
The use of the word hoe became prevalent around the same time that the word bitch became prevalent because it was being used in hip hop and used in black movies like Boys in the Hood, where you see the word used and the girls almost gloss over it like it wasn't a big deal that they were just called that. If you're 12 or 13 and you're seeing this in a movie, if you're a girl, then you're like, maybe I shouldn't trip off of that, because if this person didn't trip over it in the movie, then why am I tripping? You start hearing it in music all the time. You're seeing it in movies. There's the programming.
When I grew up, a hoe meant a female that charged. Now, the hip hop industry then took that word and then just changed it to mean any female that didn't give you the time of day. Any female that made you upset. Any female that you don't like her attitude, oh, now she's a hoe. Or just any female that you don't know. All you know that she's a female, oh, she's a hoe.
A smut, or I try to keep up with what the new words are. The teenagers always tell me about them. I know about that too, but they, they change quickly. And so they're still judged by a standard that boys still aren't held to, and sometimes they get it and sometimes they don't, because then they'll pass that terminology on to another female. And I'm like, well, are you participating in hating on her? Because that word is coming from a group of men that say you're in a category, you're not a wifey, you're a thought, you're thirsty, you fit in this category, and I would never let you cross over to the other category. And do we buy into that?
All right, so what was the original acronym?
Well, the social media one was that hoe over there. So, like, that hoe over there. So a young kid would be like, yo, look at that thought right there. And you'd be like, whoa. Like, I was like, that's kind of like bad.
If a guy has about 10 women, 15 women, then he's a player. There's something about him that's good. For all of these women, and even the women that he don't have, they want to know, what's up with this dude? Like, why you got all these women? They want to try him. They want to see. They're curious. They want to know. But if a woman has 20 guys that she's sleeping with, guys are going the other way. We're going the other way because she's a hoe.
I really do believe that it's a double standard because, for instance, just going back to the word thought, that hoe over there, I've never heard a man be called a thought. Why not? Because men can be promiscuous and hoes.
At least that's what we're thinking. We're thinking she's a hoe because naturally that's not women.
The problem is, can't spot a hoe. It ain't like she got it tattooed on her forehead. You might just really want to kick it with a nice female, but she might have a hidden agenda.
Even when I'm, writing my lyrics and coming up with them, I do have to, sometimes I do, in my head I might say, she's a hoe, but then I catch myself, I'm like, do I really want to use this word? Because it's really, in the long run, it's really not helping the culture, it's kind of hurting the culture. Like people use that word and throw it around so lightly, and people think it's a good word to use, she's a hoe, but you don't really know this girl, so is she really a hoe, or what's the real definition of a hoe? I don't think there really is one definition of a hoe, because no one really knows what a hoe is. Does that mean she slept with 10 dudes, one dude, one night stand, or did she wait 5 days to have sex with the dude? It's like, is that a hoe? Like, what is a hoe?
Slut-shaming is the practice of publicly humiliating women in regards to their sexual behavior. This may include name-calling, physical attacks, isolation, online harassment, and releasing personal pictures or videos that contain nudity or sexual situations to elicit negative response against her.
Originally, I think a player was the pimp. That meant that you had your way with women. You knew how to navigate through women, and it didn't have much to do with your looks or your money. Because if you got a good mouthpiece, and this is what pimps had, you got a good mouthpiece, you can maneuver a woman. Because I always say women have big ears and we have big eyes. We got to see stuff. We got to see your stuff out. We got to see that. And y'all got to hear what a cat is saying. The way that we are with women, I think, is animalistic.
But half of it is because it's under instruction. You know, go get all the girls you can and just move on. Once you get it, move on. And then the other half is when they just go tell them, yeah, go get them all, and don't tell them anything else. So they don't really know what to do after they done got it. They know all the things to say to make her take her clothes off. They know all the things to say to make her get close and to get that act complete.
So that's why, you know, I tell a lot of women, I even tell my girls, I say, look, you know, watch what you say, because a lot of guys, you know, they may try to use what you say against you, and a lot of times they'll get into your head. They'll do whatever it takes, you know, say whatever it takes to get into your head. You know, I love you, I miss you, I care about you, I want you to be my soulmate. But the thing is, you have to line up what they're saying with the way that they act.
But once that act is complete, they don't know what the act meant, what it represents, and what comes after it. That's the pressure. It's like you're a conqueror. That's what you are. You just gotta conquer everything. Everything with two legs and a vagina, that it got your name on it, son. Go get it. That's your only goal. Not marriage, not no faithful relationship.
So when I think about the word player, I feel really resentful about the fact that player is considered something that's humorous, or it has this positive connotation. And you see people smiling and laughing about it and saying, oh, when my son grows up, he's going to be a player. My son, he's going to have all the girls. And it puts this situation in society where they're socialized to kind of be like almost predatory toward females and try to prey upon them by playing this game, the game of actually being interested in them. And women are taught to have virtue, to protect that virtue, to protect their bodies, to protect that act. And then men are socialized to go after them and find out what it takes to break down that virtue. And that is what a player is. His job is to play the game of being interested in your mind, your heart, your particular interests, so that he can break down the virtue and get to that which is so important to you that it almost defines you and shapes your values. And that's profoundly hurtful. And there's nothing funny about that.
For centuries, perhaps since the Stone Age, men have sought to control women sexually using everything from mental and social restraints to actual physical restraints. The chastity belt was used in the 16th century to lock up a woman's pelvic region to assure fidelity when a husband went on a long journey. These iron panties were equipped with a small opening for biological purposes, but this was not sufficient or sanitary. As a result, many women developed infections which could not be treated as a husband took the key with him. Many of the women died. Even in the 21st century, the concept of female sexual control is still prevalent through worldwide practices such as genital mutilation, slut-shaming, and gender-based violence. But why is there so much anger and resentment rooted in the idea of a woman being in control of her sexuality? Could it be that men realize in a civilized society where violence is not an option, that women around the world would unify, assert, and leverage their sexual power to gain political and financial dominance, therefore shifting the status quo from male dominance?
very emotional, very miserable, very insecure when they have a good guy standing there right in front of them, and they will blame them for things that doesn't even exist, and blow it up, take a little thing and blow it out of proportion. But can't live with them, can't live without them. So.
I thought we was confusing. Females are confusing. You want somebody to love you, then when a nigga love you, you don't want them to love you no more. It's crazy.
Run that by me again?
See? She didn't hear me again because it's confusing. You know what I'm saying?
It is confusing. Yo, we want somebody to love us.
I was with a girl for 3 years. I kind of messed up. Got back together. Didn't do nothing wrong. I don't know what happened. It's confusing. Y'all bipolar. If you want a guy to love you or you want a guy to curse you out all day, make up your mind.
Professor.
You understand? That's all I'm saying. That's all I mean. Don't leave the good guys for asshole and go on Facebook with somebody, I can't get a good guy. You left a good guy 2 years ago and got with the asshole calling you fat now. You know what I'm saying? Nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect. But work with what you got.
I do believe women are very emotional creatures. Highly emotional creatures. I believe they react off of impulses more often than not. Women should, instead of being so quick to react to something, take a second to analyze what's going on, get multiple perspectives on the situation, and then react, rather than just off of emotion.
In every place in the world, like 90% of the women are crazy.
Crazy? I thought it was men that were crazy.
You like to be crazy?
If you're being degraded through a song and in that way as a woman, and then the man, being able to just like almost like disrespect and celebrate it, that's wrong. For instance, one lyric that comes to mind is, I believe it goes, if she's not swallowing, she's basic. And when I heard that, I was like, wow, that's, I think that was, who was that, 2 Chainz? That chick's basic, yeah. And I was like, wow, that's really profound.
Women listen to that. Many of the women in our own communities, right? And they are so uncritical.
Like, for instance, if they could say, dance on your forehead or something of that nature. And if it's catchy and you see the girls' backsides up in the air.
So they are either unwilling or unable to allow their consciousness to pierce through all of that.
Back in the day in hip hop, you had, and you still have it too, it's not just back in the day, you listen to certain artists and there's a nice, well-rounded view of women. That's the way it's supposed to be. You might have some songs where you talk about the skanks, because there's some skanks out there, there's hoes out there, there's girls that really do sleep around and will sleep with your boy and sleep with you and not care. That's one song. There's also women out there that are loyal and that, you might be in a relationship with and the relationship goes bad. That's another type of song. We're referencing one type of song, when we, or even on the radio, there's one type of song being played, and that's usually the more negative views of women.
Well, I mean, if you take what has happened in hip hop and what hip hop has become, what hip hop is, it is hip hop, and to be honest, and even R&B is completely misogynistic at this point. It doesn't show women in any positive light whatsoever.
You have a video out right there. It's really popular, but it's also controversial for the women are behaving very sexual and kind of shaking their butts somehow, really proficiently. It's like a lot of booty.
Yeah, it's like an art. It's an art, right?
Yeah, it's pretty hardcore. So some people have some backlash with that. What are your thoughts about how you feel or could justify that, and how do you think that it affects the women and how people view them?
I feel like the women can get viewed, falsely. I mean, there are some women that, like the attention, that do it because they like to do it. And they are so-called video models, video dancers, or twerkers, or whatever the case is. So I did get some backlash. So, you know, there's some people that didn't like the video. There's some people that love the video. It's more for, you know, people that, you know, the dudes, you know, it's a club song. So when you're in the club, you know, you're either dancing or shaking your butt. So that's what the video kind of consists of, like us just having a good time. And
and it's going to carry over. There's no way it can't carry over. If every video is showing you big booty girls with long hair down their back, then it's going to make every little girl growing up think that that's what they need to be. And if they're not that, then there's something wrong with them.
Like you said, the music gives these girls and boys clear directives on what to do, whether it's drop down and get your eagle on, you know. There's a lot of references to just strippers.
The main attack against women is the attack against their image. You know, they put this image up and say, hey, you need to look like this. And a lot of women feel like, you know, I'm not good enough because I don't look a certain way. I'm not, you know, acceptable because my skin may be dark, or I'm not acceptable because I may be large, you know. And so, you know, these are attacks. These are attacks against a woman's psyche.
Like, as a female, it's like, why do I have to look a certain way? Why does my ass have to stick out? Or why does my breast have to stick out? Why do I have to show everything to you? Why can't you listen to the words that's coming out my mouth instead of looking at me trying to figure out, oh, what can I lust on? What can I figure out? What do I like about it? No, just let me be me. Let me be a rapper. I'm not a female rapper. I'm a rapper.
You know, one thing that I made sure that I did was made sure that my girls have a full view mirror. Because the thing I tell them is that you got to love yourself. Because when you love yourself, you won't tolerate any old type of mess that comes down the pike. You know, when you love yourself, when you can see the value in yourself, when you can look at your big feet and not be offended and be like, yo, God gave me this. You know, I don't have to be anything else but what God made me, and I'm beautiful in my own right. Then once you can see that, and once you know that, then, you know, no boy is going to be able to tell me or do anything to me.
Well, I feel the disrespect, that's basically what it is, that, you know, the male rappers say in their rhymes. Like you said, it's all judgmental. They have a very strong effect on the people, period, and they know that. But I think some of them, honestly, once they get to a certain point, I think a lot of them don't even care. You know, they just, you know, like I said, they just continue to do it for the entertainment. They don't care, oh, I'm a role model, you know, I'm setting the stage for this young man who's growing up. You know, he was in the same position I am, but I'm letting them know it's okay to go to the block. I'm letting them know it's okay to disrespect women, because, you know, that's what everybody else does.
You know, girls will say, if somebody, if I ask them about a song and it says, you know, bitch or hoe, and they'll respond and say, but he wasn't talking about me. And that's a justification for why I listen to this song or why it doesn't offend me. But the reality is, it's usually making a general statement about a general group of people. So no, he's not thinking of a specific person when he uses bitch. He's saying that that's how he is viewing an age group of women, a type of woman. And so then that still gets back to a hatred of that. And he doesn't have a right to do that.
I think it strongly affects society. It affects all the people that basically listen to it, because they're repeating it. And as they're repeating it, other people hearing it, and then they get that thought in their mind, okay, this is what it is. Like when the word thought came out, it came out of a rapper's mouth first. Then next thing you know, it's on Instagram, it's on Facebook. Now every female is a thought.
What made you think to try and do something to create a change? What was?
Well, the consensus of it was for like African American women. I was watching it being catered to African American women in particular, and seeing that, I was like, wow, like there's no way they understand the history of what African American women come from or what they went through to get to this point. So by not knowing how strong these women are, how resilient these women are, and how, you know, cohesive these women are, and holding things together, from, you know, the black church to the black family, I was like, this production, by putting it together, I feel like it'll awaken a culture. I looked at the THOT and was like, wow, I can make that into my own acronym, so I called it the Hostages of Tragedy. And then once that developed in my mind, I was like, I can turn this into a play.
Loved, raped, murdered, hated, and strayed, unable to walk streets that I waxed and paved, but I'm still waxing and paving to this day. I'm the baby maker and taxpayer. But move your hips, get your tips, you ain't worth shit. But I open my arms to love because I'm not used to it. Ain't I a woman? Strong, independent, and sweet. Can bear 3 children and still jump 5 feet. I said, ain't I a woman? Lord, please forgive me, but I couldn't stomach the afterlife. So I let them beat me within an inch of my life. Breaking my spirit, breaking my mental, taking everything that I had. I have nothing. I stand before you naked, not stripped of clothes, but stripped of my soul.
What do you think about the disrespect of women across city culture? What pops out first in your mind when you think about disrespect of women?
I'm gonna be honest, like as a DJ, like I go straight to the music, and quite frankly, I'm torn every day of my profession, listening to the types of things that come out, and it's kind of like either I want to make the money and I play what the people are requesting, or you try to at least find some morals somewhere in your profession to try to stand your ground and fight for what you believe in. And I believe the words aren't as much of an issue as the women that take hold of those words and become what they think we are. So it's kind of like I've had to make my peace with playing these songs, and I can't lie that I enjoy a good beat, and it just so happens that some of these songs are very much so disrespectful towards women, but women, we shouldn't be digesting that. You know what I mean? Like, you take the beat for what it is, and a lot of times I'll just play instrumentals. That's how bad some of the lyrics are. I only play the instrumental. Women, we have to take control of our own lives. So if you're not one of those, and you're not any of those names that they're calling you, you know what I mean? Stop taking it when you're on the street. Stop taking it in your relationships. I mean, stand your ground somewhere. If you can't find it in the music, at least stand your ground somewhere in your own life.
I really dug the track called Bye Boy. Can you tell me what inspired that?
Yeah, I was at a party with my friends in college, and I'm sitting there and we're just dancing by ourselves. We're not dancing with anyone. And some man comes up behind me, it was this ear, and he says, he was singing to that song, Make It Rain Trick, make it rain trick. And I was like, what just happened? I was so appalled. Like, you did not just say that in my ear, but at the time I was very shy, soft-spoken, so I didn't know what to say and didn't say anything. So when I told Carvin, the producer that I work with, about that story, he was like, we should make a song like that, talking about bye boy, and talking about the things that we're not. I ain't your trick, I ain't your hoe, I ain't your freak, don't work a pole. So that song is just to fend off the disrespect that women are approached with sometimes.
What are your thoughts on how that's basically glorified in music, both from the male perspective, calling women tricks and kind of uplifting that and again glorifying it, and then the females who seem to not even recognize that it's demeaning?
I think that, we've always had music that, is on the more disrespectful side, but we used to have also good music to balance it out. Right now we don't have a balance of that music, so people think that that's the norm, and people keep on making the disrespectful music, and it teaches our young people, yeah, you can call me a B, you can call me a trick, and that's not acceptable as women. So I believe in creating music to balance that out, so we know what we're worth and what we should uphold ourselves to.
Right, and I think it's really good that you have such a beautiful presentation, because I think what happens is we're going to show your outfit again. And can you model it for us a little bit, because this lets the young ladies know you can be fashionable, fly, and still respect yourself. Is that not correct, Rhea?
Yeah, I can wear my baggy pants. They tried to tell me that I needed to be in a leotard. When I was uncomfortable wearing the leotard and covering my butt, they said the industry is going to put you in much sexier stuff than that. But God brought me this far, and He's not going to leave me wearing my baggy pants.
You turn on the radio, and they'll be like, more music coming up next. Da, 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 da. It ain't nothing to cut that off. Like, whoa. What? And it come on so fast. If you a parent, you like driving, like, hey, whoa. That's the first words out of his mouth. It ain't nothing to cut that off. Even like a song that's supposed to be an R&B song, supposedly like it's a Chris Brown and Kid Ink. The first thing out of his mouth is, let me put your panties to the side. You like, And a lot of people will ride in their car with their kids, not even think twice about what they're letting their kids hear.
Now we have a campaign called Rage Against the Ratchet.
I believe that the music has an influence on our youth and it doesn't paint them a good picture. And I think that if we're going to serve the community, that we have to give them positivity, especially our children.
We're here to make a change. We're asking radio stations to think about what they're playing on the radio with the lyrics that get embedded in our kids' mind, and also not only the children, the adults also.
We're gonna start here. We're gonna move at home. We're gonna be better parents. We're gonna monitor better. But monitoring better, we're gonna have to move on the system that keeps pouring this poison. And basically, that's what it's about: disrespectful music and the way our women are being degraded and demeaned. So our mission is to create a new platform, bring back the old essence of music where there was integrity, love, honesty, and truth. So being a part of this operation, this whole idea of the rise of Eve, I'm all for it because I love women and I believe that they all should be respected and loved that way.
Thank you. You said something so plain and mundane, but something that makes me wonder if it's true of most men that actually deal in that particular mentality. You said you love women. Do you think that that kind of behavior is rooted in some kind of subconscious hatred of women, or where do you think that comes from?
I mean, it can only be a hatred for women, for men to feel empowered to disrespect or demean women like that. And I just think that, it's a problem on the man's side and it's a problem on the woman's side for allowing herself to be the object of sex. So I think that with our community, if we work together and wake up and adults act like adults, we should be able to change it.
I love it. Excellent. All right, we want to get a full body shot so they can see what an executive and a mogul looks like. This is how you're supposed to dress. Talk about respecting yourself, not necessarily with your pants hanging off your behind, yelling at females down the street. How would you tell young men how to approach young ladies? Because I think one of the issues is they don't know.
Well, one of the things that when I speak to young men, my question is, how would you approach your grandmother? Because some of the mothers are young and the mothers are listening and don't want to grow up. But how would you approach your grandmother or your great-grandmother? Would it be respectful? Would it be honest? Would it be truthful? Would it be loving? And if that's what you would do, then you approach every other woman and every other person like this.
We feel like we're safe in our relationships. Maybe we are, but we know we're not safe in dark parking lots. We know we're not safe in dark streets from the potential of being violated, from the potential of being assaulted by some homeless, angry man or drunk, angry man. And I don't mean to paint everyone with a broad stroke, but let's face it, it's the people walking the streets at night that we have to be fearful of.
If someone is saying hello to them or hi miss or, a statement that is a singular statement from a singular person, I think they still feel empowered that they can either respond or not respond. I do think that most still have the impression that if they don't speak, what is that conversation going to turn to? What's going to be the next thing that's said if I choose to walk by? Am I going to be called out of my name? Am I going to be harassed?
I can pick up if a woman may just feel like I better look his way because he may think that I may be, open for more than just a hello or hi or, a glance.
You dress for the type of attention you want.
It's tricky. I saw a documentary that was down at a BET celebration, and they had girls that were dressed in, bathing suits, bikinis and that type of thing, and they were literally being physically touched and groped as they walked through crowds of men, and the men's stance was, well, if that's the way they're dressing, then that's what they want.
Sharking, aka whirling, is the practice of, it's typically a gang of gentlemen, or not really gentlemen, a gang of males will target isolated or what appears to be defenseless females, typically in what will be portrayed as skimpy clothing, maybe a bikini or something with strings. And what they'll do is they'll pretty much surround them and remove their articles of clothing. Someone will have a camera. And I mean, when I say remove their article of clothing, I mean every single article of clothing. They will wrestle the female to the ground. If she puts up a fight, they will fight back. It's rape without the sex act.
And it goes back to the same about any other type of violence, is whether you think they're dressed appropriately or not could be a question, but whether you have a right to violate their space is doesn't make that right at all.
Most women, they dress loosely, knowing it's going to get them a lot of attention. A lot of guys trying to holler at them, but they say they don't want it, and they get an attitude.
So my take on the whole Hollaback street harassment video, I think it's amazing and astounding, and it really attributes just right back to misogyny, how it was ultimately dismissed. I think that we talk about the whole catcalling dynamic. It becomes this situation to where women aren't empowered to own their own sexuality just walking around in public. And there's this belief that men keep trying to uphold, that I can say what I want to you, treat you how I want to, and you want it, you like it. And if you have a problem with it, you know, that you're just being shallow or you're just neurotic and overly emotional. But it really does get to disrespectful and intimidating in some cases. The mistake that the Hollaback video made was not doing a good job of narrating or highlighting one case from another. And that gave naysayers the opportunity to undermine the whole video based on the fact that one or two guys said, "Hello, beautiful," or put their hand out or something like that and smiled. So then they go, "Oh, that's not catcalling. You guys are trying to put us all in the same category and this and that." But the person who was really fair and has common sense and maybe will use the frame of reference of his mother or his daughter or his wife, instead of just thinking those thoughts and hoes out there always trying to create a problem, will recognize, looking at that video, that if it was their mother or sister, they wouldn't want that guy to follow her for 10 blocks. And why would you even undermine or ignore that part of the video? A guy followed her for 10 blocks. No one seemed to care because a couple of guys said, "Hello, beautiful." How come people can't discern one thing from the other?
And that's why she wore the pants, because she wanted
She didn't have that consideration when she picked them out.
Exactly.
She didn't hear about other women that wore built like a mule.
That was good.
Built like a mule.
Yes.
She's an actress. You guys realize she's an actress. They baited her.
So bad.
No, but someone is really.
And by the way, she had on black jeans and a V-neck.
They all actually.
It was black. Okay, it was black. She was jeans. They were skinny jeans, but they were black.
Yes.
She wasn't a skinny chick walking around doing experiments.
And I
she was a
when you came in
walking around.
Don't be real. Yeah. No, that's barbershop. And we gonna follow you out this barbershop. Get her on tape. And I'm the best. Get her on tape.
You may not realize on a daily basis, and I talk about this all the time in film, probably about 10 times a week, I'm approached in a way that makes me uncomfortable, where people think they can come toward me. I might walk into my car and someone says, "Hey, it's dark," and I don't mean to offend you, but I'll do this. And they'll go, "What's up with you?" Well, I don't know if I can trust you. You're walking toward me because you may like me, but I'm afraid. And then if I say stop, sometimes they keep coming because they know they're not dangerous, but I still don't know. So this is when we don't have the power to stop someone from continuously following us or talking to us or just standing there. That's where it gets intimidating, and this is why the laws may have to come into play.
Alright, so if you don't want the attention, man, you gotta kind of tone it down. But they want attention. They want attention. You want that?
Okay, so where do we cross the line between well, I say we, but I say gentlemen. Where gentlemen cross the line between just giving them attention and giving them unwanted attention that makes them uncomfortable?
I don't think the gentleman is going to cross the line.
Oh, they will.
I think it's the distinction between boys, men, and dudes. Like each is going to have their own conviction on what allow them to go a certain distance as it relates to their expression for appreciation.
He said that now. There you go.
It's the man. That was my best. I ain't got that done.
That's a wrap.
Sorry. So sorry.
That whole production shames me. I mean, I don't even watch some. I mean, we can do a video about the reverse of catcalling. You know, girls walking down the street, hardly no clothes on, and then expect us not to say nothing.
Well,
that's all. That's a reverse. That's entrapment and enticement and everything else.
You also got to take into consideration that
all the videos got
the
same shape.
What the video shows us is that there are some men that just don't know how to control. That they're.
Yeah, but I don't think it is coming out.
It is bad, though.
But it's putting us all in one category. It's saying catcalling. It's put it all in one category. Right. And that's what I like about it is there is extremes, but you make it look like that's how we all roll.
To a degree, when you roll, that kind of goes along. That kind of goes to the statement you made when you said, we did catcalling when she came in silent. You know how to control what you were thinking.
No, because there's been times where I haven't. But yeah.
but the point is, there are some who know how to control what they're thinking, as opposed to some who just let it come out and then take it to the extreme of wanting to follow.
So people dwelled on that. And they dwelled on racism. Well, it was Latinos and it was black. As a black woman, I'm here to tell you, I don't even want to speak about that. That's irrelevant to me. I'm not going to get caught up in the race card because it's designed to undermine, the point of the video. And the point was thoroughly made, so I commend Hollaback. I can discern. I can look at that and go, okay, that's cool. I wouldn't be bothered by that. And then see the difference in, those who followed her and who were smart and disrespectful. But overall, you have a situation where this woman was threatened on social network and disrespected for just doing an experiment. And that goes right back to the misogyny. So overall, the point was made. On the front end, it did show the amount of street harassment that exists. And on the back end, it showed the anger and the misogynistic mindset of how dare you try to call us out on this and try to disempower us from this. So we're going to take everything we can to undermine it and shut it down and dismiss you. And, on top of it, we're going to anonymously threaten to rape you and kill you. And there was an abundance of that online. So it really did prove that misogyny is out there. And I think that people need to read the comments and give that some thought.
If you as a man were walking down the street and every 3 steps you took, a woman whistled that you were young,
I would be happy.
Or you
I would be happy about that.
What if you have something?
Why aren't you at your job? Things like that.
What if you have something heavy on your mind as a woman? As a woman, as a sister, as whatever, if you have something heavy on your mind, you can't even walk down the street.
So am I supposed to know what's on your mind? I see the way you look and I like the way you look. So I'm saying something to you.
But if we be like, your mother never taught you that everything
it's not a compliment. Now does what for you?
Well, because it is a compliment, not to you.
But to us it is not.
It is a compliment, not
So it's all about
to you, but it's
So it's all about you.
No, I'm not saying it. It is a compliment to somebody else. It is a compliment to somebody else.
It's all about you.
It is a compliment to somebody.
It is all about you.
Well, I don't know what's in your mind before I say
My
something.
friend who even told me that, I felt it wasn't a compliment because why would I have that knee-jerk reaction to do this?
I know
They look
everybody's
for it.
focusing on how a woman looks, but as a dominant woman who dresses in masculine, a woman who dresses in masculine clothing, I get talked at or hollered at or yelled at all the time, and it has nothing to do with how I look.
Dude came at me, I'm like, told him no, whatever, like, first off, I look like a boy, so do you have gay tendencies yourself? because I look like a boy. So
you can't see how big my butt is. You can't see that.
That wasn't the point.
You can't see any of that.
We don't want to let sisters think it's okay to be walking out like that. That intention is not the good intention.
I'm just trying to figure out. I'm asking you as men. Why do you think it's okay to approach a woman in that way? Would you want somebody to approach your daughter in that way? Would you teach your daughter to accept a compliment from that lady? Would you teach her to stand up for herself and defend herself and how to gain the dignity and respect that a woman deserves? Or would you teach her, oh, that's just how men act?
And the next thing you know, it was all dyke bitch and okay, I'll be right back. Came out here. Got a baseball bat, got about 6 of my friends. I'm calling no dyke bitch.
I never really been the type that I say hello, how you doing? Nowadays some females have that stink attitude, that keyword. Have a nice day, and I keep going. I'm not gonna chase you.
I'm not gonna grab anybody.
You don't want to be spoken to? Okay, have a nice day, and I'm gonna go about my business.
Exactly. I think my game is pretty nice where I can talk to you and you'll stop. I don't think I have to grab anybody to make them talk to me.
Today was a good day, man. I gotta tell you. I just left the park. I was running. I walked out. It was like a mountain park called Vista View. And I seen this one Spanish girl, yoga pants, yoga bra, whatever, tight, Spanish, brown skin, glistening, and I was just staring at her. I was walking up, she was walking across, and I finally get up to the top, and I start following her. And there's another girl behind me. It was a friend. I had no idea. And then I look at her. I'm like, she looked just as good. Both of them, fat ass, fat booty, fat culo. And then I just ran out. I was running behind them, or the last girl. I just grabbed her ass, just grabbed her ass, and then she turned around. And I was like, "Why you stop?" I was like, "Why?" She was running. I was running behind her. And I just grabbed her, and then I ran up to her again and I punched her butt. I didn't do it hard, fighting, but punched her, give her a little slap, but it was a punch. That was it. I just man, today was a good day touching ass. If you don't touch ass, you're crazy.
Why do you think some guys do that?
Because that's the kind of people they use.
What's the word they're using there? Thirsty.
Thirsty, yeah.
They thirsty.
Like for instance, I've been at the beach, say for instance, and a guy may see a girl, he may be in his car, he may just be, standing on the street or something like that, and he may say, hey shorty, hey, what's up baby, can I talk to you for a minute? And if the woman doesn't stop or acknowledge him, then as she continues to walk, she may get name calls like, well, F you B, you ain't that hot anyway, and then start talking about her address or what have you. And so that's part of the, I always say that's part of the intimidation aspect, because she may not be interested, she may just want to walk, she may just want to be with her friends, but but if she does look and give them any eye contact or say hello and just want to say hello, then she still may get the same reaction as if she didn't just keep walking. He still may, if she just says hi, oh wow, she spoke to me, and then start to come up, and then if she tries to say, leave me alone with my girl, then she may still get the same negative reaction.
And so how one guy might react to silence, another guy might not react the same way. And I think that can depend on the age of the guy, the maturity of the guy, because if the guy is older and he can, sense that a girl is silent, she might be silent just because she's scared, she's timid, she might be unexperienced, so she doesn't actually know what to say, and a guy might be able to pick that up. Now, a guy who is not so experienced or selfish might look at it as a rejection. She doesn't like me. She's not feeling me. She thinks I'm ugly. She doesn't like my clothes. So now I gotta diss her because she made me feel some type of way. So now I need to make her feel some type of way.
And, we're struggling with our own personal definitions, and our children are trying to find out, where do you go from a boy to a man, and how do I get there? And girls are trying to find out, am I pretty, am I ugly, and where do I get that validation from? Some girls appreciate being whistled to going down the street, and because a male may have encountered one girl that appreciated it, they have now coined that as effective communication with females, to the point where now I'm going to cuss the female out who dares to say, how dare you whistle at me going down the street, or, you know, that's harassment. Now they don't understand it because we're trying to effectively communicate between males and females.
You got men that approach you all day, every day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I was just at Social Security, a dude walked up to me talking about, I'll give you $40, can I get your number? Who's to say, like, if I told him no, he was waiting for me out in the parking lot. See, that hearing stories like that scares you, especially even when you're walking on the street by yourself. That's why sometimes I try to make myself unnoticeable so nobody won't talk to me.
The Quran tells us to dress, all of us, to dress modestly, to cover our curved parts, cover those parts up that would make a fool see some sexual advancements, or get the notion that the person is dressed like that for some sexual advances. I get on brothers today when they walk down the street and with the girls with they call them Daisy Dukes now. When we was coming up, Jay Brown called them hot pants. And they see the men looking at them, what you looking at? And I say, if you don't want nobody looking at her like that, why do you allow her to be walking down the street with you like that?
Probably get a lot of hate from the females, but yes, I think that they have to be aware of the way they dress is going to generate a certain response, and it's not man's fault. It's just how it is.
With cat calls, I think that it can be a matter of someone using language to create some type of a barrier or a hierarchy, if you will, because you don't cat call at your mother, you don't cat call at your grandmother. So when you are cat calling at a woman, what are you saying to her other than your words, and what is your impression or your value of her when you use that kind of a way to communicate with her?
Sometimes if you catch eye contact with a man or he says hello, then he may take that as an opening in order, to ask you for your number or say, hey, can I talk to you? And they really rather not be bothered.
I have grown to not listen to people talking to me on the street unless they are directly interacting with me. And if it's somebody I don't know, then I automatically go and take a step back, because I don't listen to every single person be like, hey boo, are you a stripper? Can I take you home tonight?
Trying to make laws against catcalling. What do you think about that?
What are they gonna do? Somebody's like, hey ma, they're gonna be like, that's a $50 fine right there.
I think it's crazy that a law needs to even be put in place about something like that.
I think that if a woman feels comfortable with how she carries herself, that she should feel able to walk where she goes and where she pleases. I think that the same way that you are aware of your surroundings anywhere you go, that women should be aware of where they're going to be, not because it's their responsibility to make sure no one bothers them, but they want to be aware enough of their environment to keep themselves safe. And if you are around people who don't have enough respect for you as a human, that will then use some reason to disrespect you as a female, then you should be mindful that you may be in that type of environment.
نكبة يا نكبة 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 يا هو اسكت.
Notice that even long clothing does not stop gender-based and sexually charged attacks. In the case of bagging, women in long clothing are the target, so their clothing can be used to tie them up or bag them, leaving them exposed and bound by their own clothing. In this case, there is no false justification of provocative attire causing these reactions. This proves that the perpetrator attacks for one reason: because he wants to.
The Garden of Eden. Whose fault was it?
Eve bit the apple. The actual menstruation cycle is pretty much, they have to bear children, they have to, their cycle itself is based on Eve biting the apple in the biblical sense.
I mean, I don't want to be biased about it, but it's actually both, because Eve was the one that took up the apple first, and then you have Adam, who was tempted by Eve to eat up the apple.
It's not Eve's fault, totally. Basically, they were the ones of the humans at that time who had to pay for not listening to God, tell them not to bite, not to eat from that tree.
I just think it's not all her fault. I just think that women are more susceptible to evil than we are. Period.
She pretty much got manipulated to the eating of the apple.
But at the same time, Adam should have been a man and been like, nah, man, I ain't partaking of that. The Most High told me no.
Adam, he pretty much just messed up by eating it. I mean, God himself told you not to touch this. Why would you touch the apple?
Adam, he became lost leadership. And that's what's going on right now. That's what's going on right now in our society. Men are not leaders anymore.
So let me make sure I'm understanding you. Are you saying that the responsibility leans more toward Adam because he's the leader?
I don't say the responsibility leans towards him. I'm saying that as far as a man, we are called to be responsible. We're supposed to take care of our women. We're supposed to nurture our women. We're supposed to attend to our women. If y'all a queen, why don't we treat y'all like queens? Why don't we?
I do appreciate you saying that, because the only comment I had was, why can't the responsibility or the burden be shared?
Eve was tempted by the serpent. Adam was tempted by his woman. It's her fault. It's her fault. You know what I mean? The serpent came. She should have been like, no, I don't know you. You know what I mean? She listened to the serpent. That's the typical, you know what I mean? I'm just saying. Now, from Adam's standpoint, his woman was naked, holding the apple.
Well, that's the whole point.
What would you do? You know? Come on, you ate it already? You got some apple? Yeah, she already ate it.
What did you think about the Rihanna Chris Brown situation?
Well, I don't know that much because I'm not into it, but I did see her face, so that tells you a lot. But I do think that she hit him. I think she hit him because usually that's how it goes. Women hit the men and we don't hit them back. But I think Chris Brown snapped and he beat her up. And basically that's what happened. I guess she found a text she didn't like from, that's what they say, she found a text she didn't like, and she probably hit him first, and then he snapped. And he probably, to me, he went too far, because you snatch a girl. You push her, you snatch her, but you don't really hit her. But under certain circumstances, you do hit her. Now, I'm a little different, because I'm not sexist. I think that if you act like a man, you get treated like a man. And you're a woman, so act like a woman. So if you want to hit me, then you better be able to take getting hit by me.
Like, I don't condone the whole Ray Rice thing.
Ray, why do you hit the girl, Ray?
Sing it, Ray.
What do you think about Ray Rice?
You need to go to jail.
350 bucks. You go to jail?
Go to jail.
All right. By the half hour behind. That's it.
Inside. Told Cameron, you hit her through the tongue.
But at the same time, women use the fact that they're women and they should not be hit as a tool to get further with men. You know what I mean? Like they'll smack their man, they'll punch their man in the face, or they'll do those types of things. You don't put your hand on anyone.
My thing, I'm totally against any man putting his hand on a woman for any reason. I mean, across the board. You run out of ideas. Matter of fact, you could just run out. You know what I mean? There's no excuse. I think that there's no excuse for a man to put his hand on a woman.
I'm not saying that understand if you hit a man that he should hit you back, but at the same time, you have to understand that you are a woman, but there are a lot of men who did not grow up with that mentality of don't hit a woman. So they feel like, okay, if she hit me, I'm gonna hit her back.
I've been hit in relationships, right? I've been hit, and I didn't hit the girl back. I might have snatched a couple, but I didn't hit the girl back. But if you spit on me, you get hit.
Under no circumstances is it ever right for a man to put their hands on a woman. But female be testing niggas, man. I'm talking about listen, I'm a very credible dude, you know what I mean, in my hood. Nobody has talked to me like how the females talk to me, like this. Your mom this and motherfucking you spit on you and put your hand.
No, wait, hold on, give me my money. Like, you're not gonna sit here and try to play me. No, you owe me some money.
Yo, I
like,
told you I'm gonna get it.
No, I'm not trying to hear that.
Just hands on me.
Nigga, you owe me money, dog. Like, don't give me my money. Like, I'm not trying to hear that.
Yo, you beat.
No, I'm not beat. That's when you got me. No, that's where you got me fucked up. No, you gonna give me my money.
I ain't getting.
You gonna give me my money.
I've seen how disrespectful female can be. And to what point does you walking out the house, you go into the other room, you get followed, you get in your car, and they throw stuff at your car or sit in front of you. At what point do you just say, you know what, man, like after the spit and the smack and you disrespect me, there ain't no man that can do that to me.
My question is, what exactly is the best way to get your distance from a woman? Because some will even run after you.
Well, you can definitely get away. Lots of women just need time to settle down. They cannot think rationally when their emotions are going so crazy. So you give them that time. I'm even like that myself. I'm the type of person, I need some minutes. You give me some minutes, I can talk calmly, we can resolve it. It's the best thing to do whenever a situation's about to get physical, just you even feel them shutting off your lane to get away, just get out however you can, give it some time, come back.
Try to think ahead too, because sometimes women want you to do that. They get so mad at you, they want you to do that so they can make a phone call.
So they can hem you up,
right? So they got to have the strength enough to look forward and think, okay, what is she really trying to do? Let me leave.
What do you think that a man should do if a woman wilds out like that?
Walk away, leave.
You know that a man knows that he has more strength.
I think you should ball up and take it. I mean, what's the worst that's really going to happen? I mean,
the point is putting your hands on a woman. She shouldn't put her hands on you. She should provoke you. Unacceptable. Well, I mean, how many times have you been able to block those soft blows that's coming at you, or
we're talking in degree here.
Push your woman back?
Well, you're right. Now we're talking in degree. The whole punch thing is one thing.
Right.
Well, I'm sure we all be honest. We grabbed the woman up.
Just don't find it necessary for a man to put his hands on a woman.
I don't either.
Unless it's like even if she does something that provokes him, understand that he is powerful enough to take control of the situation and do harm and yet put himself in jeopardy. Walk away.
The classic abuse scenario that I deal with in true crime is one in which the male is absolutely physically abusive to the female without any provocation whatsoever. And I say that because time and again, women are hiding the fact that they're being abused, hiding the fact that they're being hit or have black eyes or making excuses for their mate because they're embarrassed. They don't want people to know that they are allowing themselves to be violated. And oftentimes what happens is that leads to a murder, at least in the cases that I'm involved with. So to say that women are asking for it, from my point of view, doesn't make sense. In fact, I think men turn the tables and claim women are asking for it or provoking violence, when in fact, verbally, you can't ever answer a verbal attack with a physical attack. That doesn't work according to the law. So provoking me with words, you know, sticks and stones can break my bones, but names can never harm me. It's a little childhood phrase that, you know, in this case, it applies because you can call each other names and that's where it ends. When it starts to get physical, it's the man that typically incites that and also is able to finish it off because females don't have the strength.
I'm totally against that. I've always been totally against violence against women. You know, I just think that's, you know, a cowardly thing to do. I don't think it's a man's place to discipline a woman, to put his hands on a woman, to, you know, to do anything, you know, physical, to cause physical harm to a woman. I'm completely against it.
Wow. A lot has happened to me in my life. That had to be the most terrifying and traumatic experience I had. I didn't even think I was being abused. I didn't even see myself as an abused woman because 20, 21, 22, 23 was when I finally did something about it and called for help because I didn't think I was an abused woman. I just thought my boyfriend beat me up, you know, and I didn't, it's crazy. I just knew I had these 2 kids. I was not gonna take care of them by myself. I didn't make them by myself. And I actually dealt with it. I actually dealt with it until one day he grabbed me by the neck and held me up to the window and he told me he would kill me. He would actually throw me out the window and he would kill me. And when I found a gun under the bed, I knew at that point it was either my life or I was going to die. And the next day I was gone.
I, as I said, was a survivor of domestic abuse in my as a teenager, actually. My first boyfriend, I was very young. He was 16, I was 16, he was 23. It didn't start off that way. He loved me very much, but he couldn't control me. So therefore, you know, you start making decisions out of fear and dealing with things a certain way. He began to hit me. And the first time it happened, I was, whoa, wait a minute. This ain't what we do. We argue and all that, but to hit me was really a surprise to me, especially being one who was pretty much a strong personality in every other area of her life. So, the first time he hit me, the second time, I'm like, wait a minute, third time I'm fighting your ass. We fighting, okay? But that ain't cool either, but I didn't leave. It took me an entire year of bloody walls, friends intervening, the police, 18 years old to finally run. I ran in the middle of the night, I applied for college, and I went to college, and he actually, I'll never forget the day, I was in college, started a whole new life, forgotten that life, it was way far away, and he showed up one day while I was at a game, and it paralyzed me, literally. He tried to rape me that night. I had to have campus security remove him from the campus, and I share that because a lot of people don't know that about me, but when I look at it in hindsight, I always say, how did I get here? What happened? I trusted him. He was my best friend. He had become my whole security system. We were codependent on one another in more ways than one. financially, emotionally, sexually, spiritually, everywhere, in every way. So if you don't set the boundaries and if you start with one thing that's inappropriate, it will grow. It will eventually grow, and that's what it will happen.
This why doesn't even have to be this whole thing of, oh, I'm going to tear that up. I'm going to dump City. I'm going to blow her back out.
Blow her back out? Yeah, I mean,
I don't think so. I don't think I want that. You know, I don't think that doesn't sound pleasing.
Why? You know, I've definitely had girls who have, you know, their backs are, I mean, you know, you're having physical motions.
What does that mean?
That's a physical way of saying what you're actually going to be doing. And, you know, sex takes a lot of exercise, you know. I know sometimes when I'm done, I'm like, damn.
It feeds guys' ego and it feeds their pride and builds up their manhood so they feel like more macho, like, yeah, I'm a man, I'm gonna go in there, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, and then after that, she gonna be knocked out asleep on the bed smoking cigarettes. And, you know, it just makes them feel good, but in all actuality, you can't blow nobody's back.
I would imagine that's why. Now, certain things like cutting and all that, that's always been a little extreme when I think about having sex with a girl. I've never liked to use the word cutting because it's like, cutting, like, it's like using like a sword or something. Like, yeah, you're cutting her. I think some men do think that, you know, that rough sex is, you know, all the way, especially, you know, a lot of the younger men in particular, because of the era that we live in and the amount of pornography that you can watch and that's accessible to you. I'd imagine that's how a lot of people learn, you know, how to have sex.
I mean, it's pretty much a given in this society, like pretty much from inception, you know, from the blue and the pink. It's like that's a given. Like you don't put pink in the boys' room, you don't put blue in the girls' room. So it's already there's set roles and there's a stereotype that's not even recognized as being a stereotype.
Let's face it, one of the natures of the beast here is the DNA code in men and women. And for everyone who wants to say we're all the same, let's face it, one thing that we're not all the same about is male versus female and what goes along with that biologically. So to try to pretend that we don't have issues when it comes to gender-based violence because men are superior to women physically, I think is a false notion.
The popular movie Taken, starring Liam Neeson, is not a far-fetched fantasy. It is a sad and frightening reality. In fact, each year in the United States alone, thousands of females are lured and kidnapped and forced into sex trafficking. While there are still many myths of the happy hooker, the reality is that these females range from runaways to aspiring models to suburban adults kidnapped off their front lawns. The women are immediately broken, violently raped, beaten, drugged, and threatened into performing for profit. They are pimp-enforced, monitored constantly, and kept under control with drugs and threats of violence to themselves and their families. There are now organizations dedicated to rescuing these sex slaves.
I mean, the fact of the matter is, men are stronger, they're physically superior to women primarily, and hence, if they want to take over a woman physically, they can do that.
It started, I had been out getting high that night, and at the time my drug of choice was crack, and that's when he stopped and proposed to me. And that was the deal. And I told him no, I wanted money. And oh, no problem, I have the money. And the crazy thing is I was outside with my brother, and it was 5 o'clock in the morning. He'd left and went down the street somewhere, and I was left alone standing there. So I'm like, okay, not even thinking, you know what I mean? Because I'm looking at him and I'm checking him out. And he's like, I got to go to work in about an hour and a half, but I got a little time to play. And he looked like he was all dressed for work. He had a hard hat on and his little cooler in the back seat. Like, you know, he was going to work, so he looked like a working man and like someone I could trust, you know what I mean? And I went on and I got in the car with him, and I paid attention. I was always very aware at paying attention to everything. And so I made sure I watched where he took me, what apartment we went to, the whole 9 yards. And before I knew it, I was being hit in the head with a gun. Then he kind of like, he held it to my head, take off all your clothes, and it kind of just pretty much went from there. And me, I'm like Miss Psychologist, I try to talk to people about everything. I'm trying to talk him out of it. You don't have to do this, even to the point where I would give it to you if you just don't have to do this. But the power and control, I think he was getting off on the power and the control. That's what the police and the hospital told me. That's what most of them do. They get off on the power and control. That was the most humiliating experience in the world. And I guess that's where it still haunts me at the same time, too. Even though he's doing 6 life sentences now, because he actually turned out to be a serial rapist. He not only raped me, but 3 other women also.
How did you get away?
Believe it or not, by the time he let me go, because he told me he wasn't going to let me go until he released himself 3 times. So that was a very extensive, long time. I think we were there maybe 8 hours or so. About after the second time, I kind of passed out. I just didn't even want to be there anymore, because by that time my brain had already went through all kinds of ways of how I could get out of there, how I could get out of this and everything. But he actually had the nerve to ask me where did I live and where did I want him to drop me off at. Like, we were on a date. Like, I chose to stay at his house. I wanted to be there. I still can't believe it till this day, and I gotta kind of giggle a little bit just to keep from crying. And then he actually had the nerve to, I knew it was, as he's giving me a ride and he's trying to hold a conversation with me like everything was gonna be okay. And all I knew was in my mind, just take me to 30th and Washington. There's a liquor store there, and there used to be a payphone there. And I knew, just get me there, and I was gonna dial 911. That's all I knew, just get me to that payphone. I wanted to get to that payphone and call the police. That's all I wanted to do. And while I'm on the phone with the police, they came. I mean, police were coming from everywhere while I was on the phone with him. And I took him right back to his house, because that's how much, you know, from paying attention to where I was going, I took him right back to his house. And that was a good thing. And that's actually ultimately how they caught him.
Honestly, I had more than one encounter with that situation. I had a lot of
bouncing around as a child. It happened like 4 or 5 times. The first time that I can remember, I don't know if it's a memory or if it's a dream that I had that sticks with me, but it was my mentally challenged cousin. He, did some things to me as well. Then my female cousin, she did what she did with me and my other little cousin. And some things happened as I got older, right before I lost my virginity. Boy from school. And that's happened plenty of times. Like,
A boy from school did what?
I was walking through Price's Park. No business. It was around, I was 12 years old. No business. It was like 8 o'clock at night. I'm walking to Riverside to one of my friend's house. And I seen the boy from school, and he started calling out at me, and I was just like, I was scared. I'm in the middle of Price's Park. You know how big Price's Park is. And I'm just walking through, and I'm like, I'm cool, I'm on my way to my friend's house, and he came up, grabbed me. Okay. He came up, he grabbed me. And when I turned around and seen who it was, he was like, don't act like you scared of me. And I was like, well, the way you acting right now, I kind of am scared of you. He was like, well, I'm going to do something that I know you'll like. Now, I hadn't lost my virginity at the time yet, so I already knew what he was talking about because I was still a fast-ass little girl, regardless of had I had sex or not. I was still doing too much for my age. So basically, he was like, yeah, I heard about some things you did, and let me find out, let me try it for myself. And as much as I told him no, he wouldn't stop. He was bigger than me. He was a big boy. Like, I was a big girl, but he was he looked like he was 16, 17 in 7th grade with us. Like, so he got his way with it. And right after that, I left Stanton Middle School and went and moved out Newcastle. So
In the park in public?
It was 8 o'clock at night. It was, it was dark time. I shouldn't have been out. I ain't gonna say I shouldn't have been out there because he shouldn't have did what he did. But at the same time, I was 12 years old. I had no business in Price's Park, 8 o'clock at night, walking to somebody's Riverside from 30th and Washington.
You have a right to do whatever you want to do. Stop blaming and victim blaming. Okay, let me just point that out for you. He's 1,000% accountable. But was there anyone around that could help you?
There was nobody out there. He was with a few people, but when he stopped to talk to me, they just kept walking along. They didn't stop with him or turn around and just see what was going on. Like, I don't know if they was even there when they heard me saying no or who was around. Like, it was at that point in time, all I seen was his face and wow, is this really about to happen to me again?
Were there any charges brought against him?
I didn't say anything. I didn't even open up about that rape until I was 19 years old.
And how old were you? Remind me again.
I'm 25 now.
When it occurred, how old were you?
12.
Why do you think you didn't say anything?
The fear of what the guys would say around the school, because I notice about children or teenagers and around that age, they tend to judge instead of figuring out the whole thing. So he could have got to school before me and said, well, yeah, she let me do this, that, and the third. But in reality, it's, he took it, he raped me, but he already got to the story first. So they basically saying, yeah, you was doing this, you was doing that. It scared me. So I left Stanton. I didn't even finish out the year there. I finished the year out at Schumann-Dill.
Did you tell your guardian or your parents at the time?
I didn't tell no one. When I say I didn't speak on it again until I was 19. I didn't speak on it. I just started acting out. I just was like, whatever I can do to get out of here, to let my mom know women's is not for me. I started staying out later. I wasn't going to school. She would come home from work, and I'm sitting there like this, hey, why are you not in school? I didn't feel good today. Or, I just didn't want to. So she was like, whoever you're out here hanging with, you obviously need to be away from. And she sent me to my grandma's house at first until she ended up moving to Newcastle.
So would it be accurate to say that event set you on a particular path for acting out and some discipline and scholastic problems?
That event set me up for a lot of things. I acted out. I ended up having sex and giving somebody my virginity 2-3 weeks after that. Like I said, and I lost it on a Truth or Dare game. It confused me because I'm thinking, well, this is what this is. I done already did it, so it's out the way. Me not knowing, no, you didn't really give it up, Key. You didn't do it willingly. He took it, but I was just taking it as, oh well, there's no virginity now, like he took it, it is what it is, and I just started acting up. So after I did that, it was just like all ball game. Like I just was everywhere with it. I was just a young whore, sad to say.
What would you say that did for your value internally until you realized it?
That hurt. That crushed me a lot. I blew up. Like I was when I was 16 years old, I was 321 pounds. At 16, I'm 5'3" now. So at that time, I had to be no more than, 5 foot, 5'1". And big as a house. Like, I stayed in the house, I was eating. Besides the fact when I'm outside running with the boys, doing God knows what I shouldn't be doing, I'm in the house eating. Just lack of confidence. I'm not shopping. I'm not getting my hair done. My mom's where my mom is, and auntie's being a whore. So I'm just thinking, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing anyway. That's what my mom and them does. So this is. I didn't have nobody there to support so far as talk to anyway. So I think that's probably why, for the most part, I did keep that under wraps as long as I did. I didn't really expose all that until I just had a nervous breakdown and just told them everything. Like, I can't bottle it up no more. It's not healthy. I'm losing it. I want to kill myself. I didn't try to kill myself a few times because I just can't handle the pressure of keeping everything. So that's why now I'm just like, just let it out.
It's a big question to ponder when you think about why the very discussion of rape angers men, why the very notion that rape makes men uncomfortable. I think it's because men are animalistic.
The way that we are with women, I think, is animalistic.
More so than women, and they feel that rough sex, tough sex, whatever it may be, is okay. And therefore, if a woman's reporting it, she must be stupid. She must be crazy. Now, is that all men? No. There's a case that recently came up. Someone raped an 82-year-old woman here in New York, in the New York metro area. It was a kid. Now, no man is going to argue about that one because that's a clear case of rape and it's a sick thing. But when it comes to people of the same age, peers, talking about being raped, it's very easy for men to dismiss it, very easy for them to get angry about it, because they truly feel that, hey, women want sex, and if you got raped, you asked for it.
Attitudes or a climate that normalizes, tolerates, or dismisses the concept of rape due to sexism and bias. The assertion is that this mentality, which encompasses victim blaming, discourages reporting from victims and witnesses while perpetuating the act of rape.
Every Friday at about 4:00 p.m. in the United States Army, our commander got to talk to all of us, and it usually was about the same damn thing. No means no. If she's drunk, it's rape. If she's high, it's rape. If she's passed out, it's rape. And these are the topics they're going down the line. And every Monday, going down the list, such and such got locked up for this. Such and such did not know that if she was drunk, it's rape. If she was passed out, she can't give you yes. And it's like every week, like, you don't listen. But it's like they tell you all of these things. They give you these they run down the lines of all these things. This is what no means. These are all ways that no can be said without even words. Like, if she's passed out, she can't say yes. If she's drunk, her yes doesn't mean yes. If she's on any type of pills or drugs that you know of that may alter her mind, she can't say yes. If she's a certain age, she can't say yes. If for some reason motherfuckers still don't give a damn, and then they still be crying afterwards, I didn't know. And it's like, man, how do you not know? in this day and age. You got all these anti-sexual harassment campaigns, anti-bullying, because that fits right in there.
Well, there's no justification for raping a woman under any pretext. And it's really a demon or a devilish culture to defame and disrespect women who are the mothers of civilization.
Sexual abuse is very pervasive in our community, in the global community. Here in the United States, when we talk about adjudicated girls, it's much higher than the statistic you talked about, which was 3 out of 5. We're talking about more than 90% of girls who encounter, are involved in the juvenile justice system in some type of way. So most female perpetrators of crime who have been victimized, and in many cases it's by sexual abuse. So it's very pervasive in the sense that it not only affects the lives of girls into young adulthood, into womanhood, and sometimes throughout their entire lives, as they really try to master that self-love that's so critically important when you're trying to love someone else, whether it be an intimate partner, even your own children and your family members. So it can really, the effects of sexual abuse carry throughout generations when it's not dealt with. And in many cases, young women don't find healing.
I think that it's fair to say certainly 90% of women will be sexually violated in some form or another in the course of their lifetimes, even if it's by their own mate.
I myself was sexually molested when I was a young girl, a little girl.
It was 16 years old. It was a date rape situation. Unfortunately, I put myself in a bad position.
Because I got raped at 4 years old and again at 12.
Prime examples that I would love to highlight is the mind state. That it's like, I guess they typically call it victim blaming. Where it's like, oh, you shouldn't dress like that because it causes men to have thoughts like this, and you shouldn't act like this or walk that or go into these certain areas because your actions may cause men to want to take advantage of you or become sexually aggressive.
It is.
I mean, I understand it's a very real thing.
Because I was raped when I was 17. I was blamed because, because I was on my way to the beach with some family members. And because of the bathing suit that I had on, so they blamed me. And I was just having fun at the beach, but I got blamed because the bathing suit and the shorts that I had on, and I don't think that was right. And I carried that in my life for many of years, and it was hard to let that go, but I thank God now that I've let it go, and I can move on with my life. But it's sad that that has to happen, but people, they'll blame the woman, but it's the crazy thoughts that was in that man's head. Absolutely. And what he had going on with him, but they don't look at that. They look at the woman.
It's never that, look, you wear whatever it is that you want to wear. And I'm talking to him, look, she's going to wear whatever she wants. And if she has no interest in you, accept it. She has no interest in you. You're no longer an animal, and neither is she, and it's not about mating anymore. It's not about population.
Here in this country, we just have, it's just perversion a lot of times in this country where we're just surrounded by this sexual, very predatory messages in television commercials, music videos. It's pornographic in many senses, and there's a large human response to the sexual stimuluses, and unfortunately girls are at the terrible end of that kind of situation.
It's not going to happen to me. I'm better than that. I'm smarter than that, and I'm just not going to let that happen to me. But it did.
again, I was a dancer at the age of 17. 17 is not old. You still need to be molded and things like that. And when I was out there, I was getting a lot of attention. And I liked the attention, probably because I wasn't getting it from where I needed to get it from. So I was getting the attention from the other strippers and these men that was giving me their money just for me to dance in front of them. But as the years went on, it got deeper and it got darker. Just a story that I have never shared with anyone except my fiance. I was raped, date raped 3 times. And I know they said the first time you should know, second time you should know. But at that age, at this point, I'm 19 years old. I have a young son. And I just really didn't care because my life was going in a downward spiral. People on the outside looking in wouldn't think that, but within me, I was pretty bad. I was bad off. So I put myself in a position to where as though that I was around a bunch of people that was no good for me, and they put a roofie in my drink. And about 5 or 6 guys took turns on me. That was the last time. The first time it was with an older gentleman, and he gave me something because at the time I used to smoke marijuana, and he gave me laced something in my marijuana, and I started to feel woozy, and I tried to get myself out of there, but before I knew it, I was on somebody's step in pain. My hair was crazy. I had semen everywhere, and never saw that person again. And people ask me, why didn't you go to the authorities? Because I was afraid. I was 19 years old. I didn't want nobody to know, because on the outside, people would see, oh, Patrice, she's just this great person. She's happy-go-lucky. She's so positive. Although I was turning to be a more positive young woman, I still was dealing with these things, and I didn't want anybody to know about it. So I told my mom. My mom cleaned me up, and we just went on about our lives. And I buried it.
Do you feel like it still affects you today?
Today, right at this moment, no. About 2 months ago, it came up, and it did bother me. And once I started to go to therapy, it started to help me. Because it's still something that I didn't really deal with. Because again, I didn't talk to nobody about it except my mom. I told my mom I didn't want to go to the police, and she cleaned me up. And like I said, we went on about our business. It was swept under the rug, whereas though it should not have been. I should have reached out to authorities and got these men in trouble. Because mind you, I can still tell you what they look like, even though I was under the influence.
Rape is not an act of desperation or an indication of stature. Rape is not a misunderstanding. It is a calculated attack, even in cases of acquaintance rape or preying upon unconscious victims, known as somnophilia. Rape is a misogynistic preference, a paraphilia or sexual abnormality. Paraphilia is usually fantasized before it is carried out, adding to the premeditated factor. Studies have shown that rape is based on the perpetrator being aroused by and having a need to empower himself by controlling, violating, demeaning, and/or terrorizing the victim. Rape is never about provocation or blurred lines. Rape is intentional.
Female genital mutilation, it is bad. Just circumcision in general, I don't really believe it. I mean, especially if it's under religious things, because I think it's contradictory to say that God is perfect, you're created in God's image, but you got to cut this little piece of flesh off.
I think we grew up in a society, Western society, that doesn't understand it well, right? Keep in mind, in most instances, women are volunteering for the opportunity to do it. Again, I'm not saying I would agree with it, right? I'm not saying that I would want, I don't have any children. I do want a daughter one day, though, right? I'm not saying I would want her to experience that, right? But I do think there is something to honoring someone's spiritual practice. Now, here's my oversimplification of the spiritual practice, right? It's actually an act of sacrifice, right? So in an over-sexualized society and world, right, you have spiritual groups, come to think about it, right, that have agreed, for right or for wrong, particularly, with the women, they have agreed to sacrifice themselves in this way. Sacrifice happens a lot, in all kinds of ways. But in sacrificing that part of your body, right, it's a way, from their perspective, right, of offsetting and balancing out the sexual energy in the world.
Well, I thought God is perfect and you're created in God's image, so why would you become unperfect? But that's just me. And then in terms of female circumcision, it's like, it's not the same. When you circumcise a male and you cut off foreskin, it's not really a lot. Like, it's not really important. You're cutting off skin, but when it's female circumcision, you're cutting off the clitoris. That's not just skin, mama. That's like some important shit right there. I just don't see the religious part of that at all.
Blood sacrifice is one of the oldest sacrifices in the world, practiced to this day throughout the world, and especially in the African or African diasporic world, right? Blood sacrifice in all kinds of ways. I mean, I can take you to Western Africa, not that long ago, and they probably still do it, where they sacrifice, in parts of Western Africa, they will sacrifice young people, a woman and a boy and a girl at the age of 13. They literally will sacrifice their life, right? And through this sacrifice, through this blood sacrifice, life, from their perspective, is expected to be breathed in to the community, right? So where does that really go back to? Well, it goes back to Jesus, right? Because what he did was a blood sacrifice.
The way they cut the shit off, it really ain't like, come on, we're gonna go to General Hospital, put you under general anesthesia, snip, snip, and you'll be right good. No, it's like, come on, we're gonna go in the backwoods, they're gonna hold you down, and Abdullah gonna take the butcher knife, and we're gonna get this thing cracking.
It's one of those kinds of things that when you first hear that it's going on, you just can't believe that it goes on and that it's still going on in the world today. And it clearly is about making sure that the woman is not deriving any pleasure out of the sexual experience, and somehow connected to a belief that if she does derive pleasure, she's not going to stay faithful to the relationship that she's in. But not only is it painful for it to occur, but they typically are also sewing the woman's vaginal area up for some part of it, so then sex is also painful every time that they have it. And I mean, it's just really beyond words. Go back to a double standard. You're not doing that. There's not a counterpart to that for a male, and so then you have these culture, that example, and there's other aspects of culture where it's all so you really don't necessarily know to think something different until someone else brings a message to you.
Like, that's just horrible. If they did male circumcision, just like the religious shit is, and they did it under them same pretenses, like instead of going to the church and it's a religious ceremony, it was just really barbaric, just grab that motherfucker, hold him down, we can cut off his foreskin, I promise you they stop that shit.
And it's terrible. I guess the thing that it makes me think of, which isn't the mutilation, but all those girls that were taken in Nigeria, that were kidnapped and impregnated.
As a government over there, they go to your house, they rape a young girl, the military come nighttime, and nobody can say nothing.
It's just beyond belief that if we as human beings feel that we could do that to another person, it goes past all other standards of relationship. It's just about, I'm human, you're human.
When I was a lot younger, to be honest, I did look at females as, you know, just maybe not on the same human level as me, maybe just, you know, someone that would be below me, not anything that I would really, you know, think about how I would treat on a day-to-day basis.
You know, when we talk about this sexual abuse and this defining of what a woman should be and what a woman shouldn't be, what a female should do, what a female shouldn't do, at what age they should do it, when. So this very controlling woman box that's threatens the lives of women and girls around the world. So we talk about deflowering and the process where the female clitoris is cut and the vagina stitched up to be sliced open again, you know, when the woman is married, just to ensure her virginity, where those restrictions are not set upon males.
Unfortunately for women, their sexuality has been, men have been debating women's sexuality and what's right for a woman for centuries now. You'll never see a bunch of women debating whether or not men should have vasectomies and, you know, what they should do with their penises and their testicles in Congress. I just won't see it.
I mean, you don't need a homeless or a drunk man to violate someone around the rest of the world. That's only in America. Around the rest of the world, all you have to do is be a woman. You're subject to all kinds of violations in certain countries. So it is a worldwide problem. It is a serious problem. And there is this, quote, war on women that we realize is going on, we talk about, but we really don't have any particular solutions for. And I don't know that we ever will. I'm not sure what the answer is, other than to try to arm women, get them more aware, and motivated to either not go out alone at night or find a way for them to defend themselves.
In the 17th century in Salem, Massachusetts, women were accused of witchcraft and were burned alive at the stake. In the 21st century, women who dishonor or displease their husbands or fathers are burned alive in India and the Middle East. The most extreme and deviant misogynist is the serial killer, who often targets sex workers such as with the Green River Killer and Jack the Ripper. These sexually charged murders are particularly heinous and often include rape, mutilation, and leaving the victim exposed to add post-mortem humiliation.
You got all the news about the India thing where they had the gang rape and beat the girl with the pole and shit. You got all this shit going on all over Africa. The shit in the middle, like all around the world is issues with motherfuckers not treating women right. But I know that women been fighting for shit for a long ass time, and considering that they the only ones that can bring another motherfucker in here, I don't understand why they been fighting so long. If I was a woman, I'd have been just like, you know what? Ain't nobody getting shit from now on. Population over.
If your idea of feminism is to be me, then you've already lost, right? So your goal should be to define and frame your identity and who you want to be, right? So if you read actually the masculinity literature, right, or the femininity literature, if you go to masculinity literature, right, you'll see several, definitions of masculinity, or what does it mean to be a man. You'll see succinct statements. Go to the feminist literature. You'll be hard-pressed to find one. I sit down with my feminist scholar friends and I say, can you explain to me what does it mean to be a woman? Clear, plain language. And it can't be everything, right? And it can't be me.
America is a free country. Women is more independent, more do what you want to do. They leave what they're supposed to do, they do something they're not supposed to do. If they're busy to chasing money, they're busy nice car, they're busy like men.
So you fight for the right to, for instance, play basketball, right? To have a professional league, like men, right? Or you fight for the right to play baseball or box. From a male perspective, right? Many men can lose respect for that. Because from a male perspective, Why don't you create your own sport? Just create your own thing, your own industry, right? And therein lies you would be defining your womanhood. You can't simply just fight for the rights, right, to simply mimic and mock who I am.
Because women have such a status and a stature, especially in America, where, you know, we have 50% of the job force, we are 50% of the earning power in this country and the voting power in this country, men have felt somewhat disempowered as the, quote, head of the household that used to be 50 years ago. And perhaps some of that frustration gets taken out on women physically. They're just angry and they're taking out their frustrations on a female because they can, because they're the bigger sex, the larger sex. It doesn't really equal anything other than violation.
She left behind 3 children. As I write this, my 2-month-old daughter is 10 feet away in one of her bassinets, fussing. Years from now, she will leave the house on her own. She will have friends. She will learn to drive. She will go out. And there will be men she is not interested in who will be interested in her. Some might catcall from cars and corners. Some might grab her arm on her waist at the bar. Some might buy her a drink. Some might approach her on the street. Some of these advances will be ignored or unacknowledged. Some met with kind but deliberate body language to convey her lack of interest. And some will even be met with actual words. Her actually saying some sort of, "I'm not interested," out of her actual mouth. But while she can control how she responds to the approach and how she communicates her lack of interest, she cannot control the response of her response. She will have no idea if the guy she says no to will cuss her out or spit in her face, which happened to my wife before. Or follow her 5 blocks to her apartment, which has happened to a friend before. Or follow her outside the bar, ask again, get rejected again, and kill her, which happened to Janice Towton Jackson. Of course, not every boy and man interested in my daughter will express this interest or respond to her disinterest aggressively, disrespectfully, or violently. The vast majority will not. But there is no way of removing those who will from her interactions, no way of avoiding them completely, and that scares the fuck out of me. As I'm sure it scares the fuck out of my wife, and as I'm sure it scares the fuck out of the women who also happened to be at Cliff's bar that night. Janice Towton Jackson is dead because a man was interested in her, and then killed her when that interest wasn't reciprocated. And this, again, is fucking scary. Not just because of how frequently this happens, but also because I know there will be people, men and women, who will hear about this murder and will immediately think, well, she must have said something disrespectful, or she didn't have to embarrass him by saying no. Just give him a fake number, or how was she dressed, or what was she even doing out that late in Homewood? As if this, men responding to disinterest with violence, were an epidemic. As if any of this were her fault. And as if what could she have done to prevent this matters at all, and what can and should men do to stop men from doing this, which ultimately is the only relevant question here. Her name was Janice Towton Jackson, and she was killed because she said no, by Damon Young.
Women aren't taken seriously when it comes to rape. Women aren't taken seriously when it comes to domestic violence, when it comes to street violence. And it's about time that the society wakes up and listens to these voices, and that women feel empowered to bring forth their voices.
So it's really not an attack on boys and men and how they attack women, but it's where are our children learning self-respect, self-love, how to engage with others, how to effectively communicate? Where are we learning that?
Broad. I mean, there's a lot expected of a woman at this point. You know, most men are looking for a woman who's going to be faithful, who's not promiscuous, who will provide stability. But then when you listen to music and, you know, things that are going on in society or watch TV, you might get a different picture of what men want based on, you know, some of the songs that are popular. I mean, I'm glad I'm not a woman, because I'd probably be pretty confused at this point.
I think, you know, the men must treat the girls like, you know, like everyone. Some men take the women like, you know, you must do that, you need to do this, you know. We are only here because of God, you know.
Well, the Bible says that Satan comes to steal, to kill, and to destroy. And that's from John chapter 10, verse 10. And so the attack against women is to basically blind them, you know, to steal, you know, their value away from them, which the devil did. He came to her in her mind first, didn't attack her body straight out, but he came to her in her mind and tried to, you know, tell her that, you know, God was not being truthful or honest with her. And, you know, the most dangerous woman on the planet is a woman who knows her value, but also a woman who is free. You know, free in her mind, free in her body from, you know, these vices and things that will try to, you know, stop her. You take a dream and you have a woman and you share that dream with her, she can take that dream, help you get it to a reality, which in turn becomes a legacy and a testimony for your family.
Reverend you from the Quran means that you reverent the female. I mean, there is no society without a female.
Well, I look at it like this. As a father, you need to ask yourself, do you want your daughter to date a man who was like you at your age?
Now that I have a daughter, it's like I feel like I have the need to really think about the way I treat women before I go into it. Because I mean, I would want my daughter to be treated the same way. So I kind of have to look at it like, you know, okay, am I treating this female the way I would want another man to treat my daughter? So it really had a big impact on me having a daughter and being a father now.
I may be a little grayer than I was 8 years ago, but this is what a feminist looks like. We need to keep changing the attitude that raises our girls to be demure and our boys to be assertive, that criticizes our daughters for speaking out and our sons for shedding a tear. We need to change the attitude that punishes women for their sexuality, but gives men a pat on the back for theirs. We need to change an internet where women are routinely harassed and threatened when they go online. We need to keep changing the attitude that prioritizes being confident, competitive, and ambitious in the workplace, unless you're a woman. We need to keep changing a culture that shines a particularly unforgiving light on women and girls of color, about how they look, about how they feel, about what they should or should not do. It's why we're encouraging more girls to pursue their love for science and technology and engineering and math. That's why we've highlighted women trailblazers and encouraged media to depict more examples of women in STEM, because it's hard to be what you can't see. It's why we've launched a movement of women and men to fight campus sexual assault, because it's on all of us to stop it. And even as we make progress at home, we look abroad, and we know that any country that oppresses half the population, that doesn't let them go to school or work, and does not give them control over their own bodies, that's a society that will not work over the long term. It will not reach its potential. As Commander-in-Chief, I've seen how the ideology that leads Boko Haram to kidnap schoolgirls and leads ISIL to enslave and rape women is the same ideology that leads to instability and violence and terrorism. There's a connection there. And so we need to be clear about what we're about, what we stand for. Because organizations and ideologies that are repressive and cultivate violence and anger, there's a running thread that is dangerous.
When we learn about Janice Towton Jackson and Mary Spears both being followed by men, then being shot and killed for rejecting their advances, we are forced to re-examine the significance of the Hollaback catcalling experiment. Instead of dismissing it due to the lighter reactions in the video, we must focus on the more aggressive men that followed her and recognize that behavior and entitlement runs along the same disturbing thread. Likewise, when a woman tells you that she is made uncomfortable by someone lurking at night, we cannot disregard her instincts, as it is not so far-fetched that he may have an agenda when women are simply snatched off the street every day. And we must bear in mind that many of these women find it easy to conceive of gender-based attacks because they have been beaten by their own domestic partners in the sanctity of their homes while being blamed for provocation, though there is not a scratch on their partner and they, on the other hand, have been bruised or seriously injured. What is the probability that they are safer in the streets? In a society that blames them for any attack committed against them, where can they find refuge? And when we talk about the way women dress to justify preconceived ideas of how we should treat or regard them, and to justify street harassment and violence against them, what are we saying about the Trayvon Martin case? Who are we to judge, antagonize, punish, and monger hatred towards others because they don't dress or behave within our parameters? These women, these hoes, these thots, and snobs that turn down their noses to men's advances, these teasers, these wild party girls that pass out drunk then cry rape, these annoying, nagging women who provoke men into beating them within an inch of their lives are not strangers. They are your sisters, your mothers, your friends, girlfriends, your daughters. And there is no doubt that women are physically more vulnerable than men in the world at large. A man can impose his will over a woman at any time without a weapon but by sheer strength. If he wants to rape her, he can. If he wants to drag or carry her into his van, he can. If he decides he wants to confine her to a particular room or space, he can. And if he wants to beat her or strangle her to death with his bare hands, he can. That is the world women live in. The constant reality that they do not have control over their own bodies and their safety in dangerous situations. The constant worry of never knowing what will trigger or escalate a particular situation. This is the unspoken fear that lives in your daughter, reinforced by the unspoken fear that lives in you. And this will only change when we stop blaming and shaming women for their own attacks, and men stand up to other men who behave this way and make them accountable on behalf of the women they love, to create a paradigm shift in how society views, empathizes, and intervenes with regard to the systematic mistreatment of females, and in order to make the world a safer place for their baby girls to inherit.